Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And today we're here with another fun day of cloud computing questions and answers. Perhaps you desire to become a cloud architect, or maybe you desire to become a solution architect, or maybe you want to be a cloud engineer, or maybe you desire to become an enterprise architect, a network engineer, a network architect. I don't care. I want to help you get your first job. And that's what I've been doing for people for over 25 years. See, I've been working in tech now for about 25 years, and I've spent the last 2 decades helping people get their first tech job, getting people promoted. And I've got to tell you, my favorite thing almost every day is when one of my students says, Mike, I'm cloud hired. In fact, I know I live for it. I know Alonzo lives for it. I know Chris lives for it because we exchange it, literally speaking, at 10, 11 o'clock at night every time I get notified. The rest of my team lives for it too, but I don't disturb them with text messages in the middle of the night just because I found out somebody in Australia got hired. But anyway, that's the key. We love getting people hired, and that's why we're here. So today I want you to come in and bring in any questions that you have about building your career. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if you know the right way to get there, you can get there in half the time. You can get promoted faster, earn more money, and have a better life. And that's why we're here. So this morning, or actually yesterday, the GDP numbers came out, and the U.S. is in a recession. Don't worry, there's still lots of opportunity in a recession if you know how to take advantage of it. I've gotten hired in recessions, and I also have made sure that my students and people that I've coached overall haven't gotten laid off in a recession. In fact, of the people I coached in my life over 20 years, only a single one got laid off in a recession, and this person got a six-figure severance salary and a $300,000 job within a week and a half of being laid off. So it worked out real well for them. So we know how to get you hired in good times and bad times. So ask us your questions so we can help you build the best career. But because inflation is making life hard for people, I've asked my team to extend our coupon code potential, which will give you 30% off of everything we do. I want you getting hired. I want you getting paid more. I want you getting promoted. So coupon code potential off of our Cloud Architect versus Cloud Experience program, or actually any other program we have thereafter. Now, on Thursday, we are going to have our next week. It's completely free. Our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. You'll come on this webinar. I will go over the various positions, and I will tell you exactly what employers want for these positions, how to skip HR, so you can go straight to the hiring manager when you lack experience. I will show you how to, in this particular case, I'll tell you exactly what the hiring manager dreams about in the perfect employee, so you know how to pitch your interview. I will tell you a little bit on how to answer questions on interviews that you don't actually understand or know, so you can still get hired even when you don't know. I will show you how to take the hiring manager and show them that your life experience, other things you've done in your life, is so valuable for your new job. And I'll teach you how to get hired. It's completely free. We have so much coming out for you. For example, this morning I published an article on LinkedIn on using appropriate communication. I published it on Hacker Noon, but we distributed it on LinkedIn on how to use intelligent communications to maximize your technology career. So please follow me on LinkedIn. I have about 13 articles already ready to go on how to improve your cloud architect or solution architect interview. I've got a stack of things to improve your technology career, and it's going to be completely free. While we're at it, my average student at Go Cloud Careers' biggest problem is they've got bombarded with recruiters and hiring managers. I need to interview. They're bombarded. And the biggest challenge they have is saying, I'm not ready yet now, but could we talk in 6 months or 3 months or 2 months? So if you want to be like one of our students, and our students don't apply for jobs, our students get harassed until they find the job that they actually like by recruiters, take our resume and LinkedIn workshop. The link is in the chat box and the description below. So let's bring in some questions. Figure out how I can help you build your career. So in the chat box, please tell me with a hashtag whether you want to be a cloud architect or a hashtag cloud engineer or a hashtag for whatever you want. And also while we're at it, give me a hashtag cloud hired. See, lots of people focus on getting you certified. Look, we can get you certified too. Certification is nothing. But we get you cloud hired. I don't charge to just get somebody a certification and say, bye, you're done. We can't do anything with you. We help people get hired from resume preparation, interview preparation, even, building your plan. Alex Newman, good morning. I think that was Chow. Good morning. Chris Johnson, good morning, and cloud hired. Casey Spalding, good morning. Good to see you here. Dylan Williams, I've been seeing a lot of you. Good morning. I'm so happy you're here. Sahur, good morning. Win, good morning. And Cloud Hired, yes, it's good to see you. Abhishek, good evening, sir. I was thinking of joining your course, but I'm a working professional in India. Now, how much time do I have to dedicate to the class? And, sir, English is not so strong. So, Abhishek, I'm going to say two things. One is we don't really rush people. So, if it took you a year versus 6 months, we don't care. So, there's that. So, I would say to do it in a year, you're dealing with about 10 hours a week. As far as English not being strong, that is a concern. And the reality is this: as architects, and typically speaking, we're working in a global environment. And what I mean by that is, when in my career, I've worked in the US, I've worked in Canada, I've worked in South America, I've worked in Australia, I've worked all over Europe. I mean, you name it, in the Middle East, I've worked all over the Middle East. And, there's a couple languages that are pretty internationally spoken. One of them is English. And in India, there's a lot of English because it used to be a British colony. There's lots of English in Africa. There's lots of English all over North America, all over Australia, New Zealand. And even certain parts of Europe actually default to English, even though for international. For example, I'm from Greece. And in Greece, we speak Greek. But when it's business time, most Greek people in the big cities actually speak English now because that's there. Now, French is another language that you can get pretty much throughout the business world. To a degree, you can get away with Spanish in the business world. And depending upon the industry, you might get away with Hindi or something like that, or some of the bigger languages. Potentially, yes, as well. But realize as an architect, you're going to be dealing with a global community. So I would say try to work on that common language. I'm multilingual myself. And I think speaking more than one language is great for big careers. But, here's the thing. None of us start out by speaking as experts. None of us. I talk to people and I tell them to close the faucets or close the lights. And they look at me like I have 4 heads sometimes because, I'm thinking in Greek and translating it to English. No, I think in English. But you get the point. So the point is you would learn. And what I would also recommend you do, and this has really helped me with learning other languages, watch English TV and American TV. When I had to work in Spanish countries, I used to watch Spanish TV with American subtitles. Or American TV with Spanish subtitles. And after a couple weeks, it all seems to be easier. So I think there's that. But, we've got lots of students that we get hired in India, just like UK, just like America, just like Canada. And if you'd like to be trained and you'd like us to help you, we will do the best we can to make sure you get a great cloud architect job or cloud engineer job by the time you're done. And we would also coach this speeching because a lot of happens. We make you do a lot of presentations throughout it. And we give corrections and coaching, etc. Now, it's also okay for us to have an accent. And that's totally, totally, totally normal. Totally fine to have an accent. But we do have to make sure that we are good at the languages where we want to speak. If you don't want to be working in America, for example, and you want to work exclusively in India, then you don't need to learn English. But, even in India, there's a lot of different languages. And sometimes English becomes a common default, too. So it's still there. So those are the advice I have for you. But if you'd like to train, we would love to train you. I mean, when similar to the list of things needed to be known as a network architect, can you go through things list that I need to be a defensive security architect? Sure, Win. For defensive security, it's all, and I'm not really sure how much defensive security architects there actually are. So, I'm sorry, defensive. Okay, defensive. I thought you said offensive. So, for a security architect in general, it's really about knowing how to secure an enterprise. So, what does that mean? It means being pretty familiar with zero trust environments. It means being pretty familiar with networking as well, because there's a lot of security that people can do on the networking they don't think about. 802.1x, QoS, rate limiting routes and where routes can go through. I mean, just to name a few things, which can do almost in many cases more networking than the security stuff. So it's about understanding that. And when next, it's used to understanding the vulnerabilities that exist out there. The kind of challenge that you have securing a Windows system versus a Linux system, et cetera, et cetera. It involves lots of knowledge about malware, whether that be worms, viruses, or ransomware, lots of knowledge there. It involves a tremendous amount of knowledge in terms of writing a security policy. It involves a tremendous amount of knowledge in terms, social engineering and anti-social engineering in order to get hackers used to get their way. It involves, writing security policy. It involves knowing how to educate people not to make mistakes. Additionally, it includes knowledge of security and security protocols such as identity and access management and all the systems that are related to that, such as Active Directory and those other things. It involves being an expert on knowing how to use next generation firewalls, how to load balance across next generation firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems. It involves how to use secure an enterprise from the outside in. What do you do on your content delivery network? How many sets of firewalls do you need? One set of next generation firewalls or two? Do you use an IDS IPS system there? What kind of ACLs are you using? What kind of other things that you're doing? What kind of micro segmentation of your network can you do? So these are the kind of things that you're dealing with. So there's that. But that's the tech piece. Remember, this is an architect role. So again, you're never going to touch the technology. So this one means you're going to need to learn how to sell, learn how to design, develop your executive presence, develop your executive communication skills, develop your leadership skills, develop your business acumen, because you're going to have to read balance sheets, financial statements. You're going to have to be doing ROI modeling of, hey, here's your exposed security risk, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer. Here's our solution. As you can see, our solution costs less than the assets you're protecting. You'll be presenting at conferences constantly, presenting executive briefings constantly, so you're going to need some serious presentation skills unless you take our cloud architect career development program, in which case we would cover that in the cloud as a cloud security architect. And then beyond that, make sure you're CXO relevant, so you know what to say to the CEO versus CFO versus the CTO versus the CIO versus the CISO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the kind of things that we could that you would need to know. Great questions, man. If you got questions, everybody, please ask them in the chat box. Start drinking some water along the way. Life Tech. Morning, Way. What do I need to know to get a high-paying cloud security architect job? I love tech. Well, the first thing that you need to know that it's not about the tech. So for people that really love tech, especially engineers, it's often hardest for them to become architects because they want to engineer it, meaning touch the tech, work the tech, build the firewalls. For these jobs, it's all about business skills, business skills, business skills. And that's where people get it wrong. They think experience as an engineer is going to make a good architect. And in some cases, it makes you better. And in other cases, it makes you a lot worse. And when you're really coming from a tech background, you've got to unlearn your thinking pattern completely. So the first thing that you realize is we design, present, and sell cloud security solutions, which means going into design. If you design, here's what goes into that. It means that you must understand how all these systems work, the networking systems, the data center works, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that. And then, once we get past that, it's, that you're going to be speaking constantly. So you're going to need executive presentation skills. And you're going to have to know how to translate what engineers speak to what executives speak. You're going to have to understand how to read financial statements and balance sheets, because you're going to have to be able to look at what's going on in the business. You're going to be able to have to negotiate $1 billion plus deals, or at least being part of $1 billion plus deals. You're going to need to be able to write for newspaper articles, papers, be on TV, because that kind of stuff constantly happens as a cloud security architect. So again, more executive communications, more presentation skills, more sales skills. You're going to be selling constantly. You're going to be presenting at executive briefings. So this is the elements that you need to know on the business side. Now, I've just covered about $30,000 to $100,000 worth of knowledge, but we cover that in our cloud architect career development program. For that reason, I know most people can't afford that. It cost me about $250,000 of training to really get these skills. And that's why I've been teaching them basically for free, because I want the world to have them. Then you really need to know how to architect, not how to configure. Configuration and clicking teaches you nothing about design. Nothing. It's kind of like asking the hotel maid, hey, does he or she know how to design the building? No. Just because you work in a hotel doesn't mean you know how to design it. So now you need architecture training, which we teach. There's not a lot of architecture training out there, but when you find it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars because it's expensive skills, we teach it for less than for about a single day's pay. But then really is, how do you lock down your systems? Maybe at the edge of your network, you put a content delivery network on it with some DDoS protection. And then maybe use a network load balancer in front of 2 next generation firewalls. And then, it's a high security environment. So maybe you do another network load balancer in front of 2 additional next generation firewalls. And then heck, you might do a network load balancer before 2 IDS IPS systems. And then what are you going to put on your access control list? Maybe you're going to use a security group. What are you going to do on the host? Are you going to patch the host, put some anti-malware protection on it? You're going to disable some unnecessary services? Are you going to put a host-based firewall on it and some host-based IDS? Probably. Well, how are you going to set up and design your demilitarized zones as it goes into cloud being an architect? What kind of authentication, authorization, and accounting systems are you going to be doing, etc.? What kind of encryption strategy are you using? Encrypting your storage, encrypting in transit, encrypting this. Are you using zero trust and how you're architecting that? That's what it takes to get a high-paying cloud security architect job. Not configuration. 50% business executive skills and 50% this. Now, for example, you can see a video of my young student, Delroy Batt. My team can put a link to it. He's an amazing young man. He's 24 years old. He has an associate's degree. He came to me with zero background or experience in tech. Within 3 weeks in our program, he had a really nice, high-paying, security job, and he took that job, and he now got a massively fantastic job where he's now a cloud security architect, working in a very big organization, earning a salary. I asked him if he could afford a brand new single-family home in a nice neighborhood at 2 Mercedes just on his pay and still save money each month, and he said yes. So he's extremely happy. And he had no experience when he got hired, but we trained him. We trained him to be great. And those are the kind of things why he can get hired. Look, I've had about 6 people recently get hired with zero experience. I had a psychologist get hired with zero experience the other day. So the point is that's what's necessary. Sometimes experience in tech is an advantage, and sometimes it's not. Because what happens when employers see engineers, they often don't want to hire an engineer for an architect. Because as much as I love engineers, and I do, and I rely on engineers, they have a different brand. The engineers have the configuring brand. They have the antisocial brand, which is not necessarily true, but that's the brand of them. They don't like to talk. And most of them engineers are focused on this, building the thing and making it work and being super technical. When in the architect world, they don't want you to be super technical. They don't want you to think about building the things. They want you to solve the business problems. So the engineer is solving the tech problem, and the architect is solving the business problem. So they have to be different in every way they are and every way they think. So that's what it is. You have to think like an architect and not an engineer, meaning don't be a techie, be an executive. And your tool to solve business problems or do digital transformation is a tech, but you're not a techie. We've got a cloud architect career development program where it can help you get those jobs. Good question. Will the course help you become a security architect? Absolutely. You can be just like Delroy Batt and get hired as a cloud security architect. And I've got people constantly getting hired as cloud security architects, constantly. Almost every day one of my students gets an architect job. How do you get the initial cloud experience to get hired? Alex Newman, I need to know what career you're looking for, because the experience to be an architect versus the experience to be an engineer are so different. A cloud engineering experience doesn't make you look attractive as a cloud architect. Cloud architect experience does not make you look good as a cloud engineer. So what career do you want? And then I can tell you what experience is valid. Good question, though. Hey, I've never heard of Juniper certifications if they are competing with Cisco. Juniper is a company that makes great routers and switches. Cisco and Juniper make the world's best as a rule. Juniper typically has a little edge on the performance over Cisco, typically, not always. And Cisco has the advantage of the end-to-end architecture, which truly solves customer problems. In this world, Dylan, depends on the job, but certifications in today's world don't mean that much. They just don't. And here's the reason why. I could get every one of you here 10x AWS certified within 30 days And you wouldn't know anything about anything by taking you to the right websites. Anybody could do it. And I've seen people do it. And I know where these websites are. I could say, go here and you'll pass the exam tomorrow. And you could. All you have to do is memorize a bunch of questions and answers and pass. It'd be nothing. But that's the problem. Every day I get spammed in LinkedIn. 100% guaranteed success of passing the exam. You don't even need to be there. Or they're using fake IDs. I don't even know how they're doing it. But the point is it's that way. So certain certifications tend to be valuable and certain ones tend to be not. When it comes to certifications alone looking valuable, alone, we're typically only talking about the CCIE and maybe the CEH Master. And here's the reason why. And not that the CEH Master is my favorite, because it's not. At least with the CCIE, chances are you had to read 50 to 75,000 pages to do it. You had to spend a lot of time, and they give you a written test, which is simple, like any of these other things, like the Certified Solution Architect Professional, simple exam. And then on top of that, they make you do a lab. They make you actually build something that's not supposed to work, that's supposed to be broken, to see if you can figure out how to do it. So that's really where the criticality is. But yeah, no, Juniper certifications have been out there for 2 decades. In my youth, as a geeky engineer, I thought about getting one, but I kept to the Cisco. Here's why. Certifications doesn't get anybody a job ever, except for maybe the CCA, because certifications keep the name of a service and how to configure that service. And the reality is, in real life, we're using services from 10 different companies, and architects don't configure anyway, and configuring doesn't teach design. So it really depends on the career you actually want. But here's the thing with Cisco. They own 80% of the market share. I've got a Cisco certified internet expert. Everybody knows what it is. Now, if the Juniper certified internet expert, half of their recruiters won't know what they are, and half of the hiring managers won't know what it is. So I don't do certifications in a world where they're not ubiquitous. Which is why, as much as I like Google, I typically tell my students to do the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional or the Azure Solutions Architect Expert, because for this reason, they're the big players. And everybody knows if you pass one of them, at least you understand the main cloud or one of the 2 main clouds. But I love the Google Cloud, and I think great things are coming. So they're not really competing with Cisco. And, I almost wonder, because Juniper is focused on tech, and Cisco's focused on business transformation. In fact, at Cisco, they say I'm a director. I'm a VP. Manager systems engineering. At Juniper, they would all say member of technical staff. So you can see, one's focused on business, digital transformation. Another's focused on just the tech. Who's the market leader? Cisco. Why? They focus on the digital transformation. Who's got super small market share? Juniper. They've got great tech, great tech, but it's never about the tech. It's always about the transformation. Juniper focuses on the tech. Cisco focuses on making sure their customer is more profitable. So I would almost guess that Juniper didn't even put as much time in trying to advertise the certifications. Because here's the thing, at the elite tech level, nobody cares about certifications. They care about competency. So I don't know why Juniper even has them at this point. But, people know when they need some super high performance router, they go to Juniper on all the cases. Or they use Cisco because they're fantastic devices. But if you're going to get a certification, get it as a generic one. And Juniper has a tremendous number of Cisco people working there. And I will also tell you this, that me, for example, I was hired, I received offers, I can't even tell you how many big networking companies. I worked at Riverstone, which was the old Cabletron off of the CCIE. I was offered by another one of the big networking players, I don't want to say their name, an extremely senior leadership position based upon the CCIE. Heck, I almost joined a hybrid cloud company, and they're like, you've got a CCIE. Wow, and you're still an executive. That's good, because most of these exams are paper exams, and you can fake your way through it, but not the CCIE. So, the Cisco ones are kind of ubiquitous. And here's the other reason people like the Cisco certs. It's 10,000 pages for the CCNP, and it's 150 to 300 pages for AWS Advanced Networking. You look at it like Cisco's like a sledgehammer, and these other things are just so basic. So Cisco certifications are ubiquitous across industries and vendors, because they're not like an AWS certification. The AWS certification is, here's my proprietary DynamoDB. Here's my proprietary this. Here's the way you can stick it all in one cloud, and you stick it all in one cloud, the cloud goes down, and your customers, go down. And if it's a hospital, people die, and if it's a bank, millions of dollars are lost. But trust me, we can all do it in a single thing. And on an AWS exam, it's brand name of service. This brand name, EC2 S3. In the Cisco exam, they'll talk about the equivalent of a virtual machine. That's what they'll call it. The CCNA things for data centers, they'll talk about block storage, object storage, file storage. They're not going to be made up words from the Cisco marketing department. They're going to be there. When Cisco discusses OSPF or Juniper discusses OSPF, it's not like an AWS or an Azure exam where it's topical on all brand names of stuff. It's deep, and they get into the protocols, finite state machines when they exist, the messages, the things that are in the headers of the messages. Deep knowledge, and you need that kind of knowledge to design. It's not like the AWS certification. Here's the name of the service and how to configure it. That's why people can do all the certifications and no one will hire them until they get training, which is why we do the kind of training we do. Dylan Williams, great question though. Ask us your questions in the chat box, and while we're at it, give us a hashtag cloud architect or a hashtag cloud engineer. Faizan, good evening from Pakistan. I'm so happy to see you here. Pravan, can I please name some top recruiters who are looking for Go Cloud Architect students, typically who pay well in the US? Pravan, are you a student in the Go Cloud Architects program? If you are, I can recommend some in class. But I don't give our private recruiting team to the public internet. I mean, I do a lot for free, but no, there's certain things that we keep exclusively for our students. Exclusively for our students. Faizan, how to start a cloud career with only the cloud practitioner certification? What career would you actually like, Faizan? I've gotten people hired with the cloud practitioner certification. We recently got Delroy Bat an incredible cloud security architect job, and he has no AWS certifications whatsoever or cloud certifications at all, and he still got it. So the key is, what do you want to do? Because if it's a cloud architect, it's one set of things that you need to learn. If it's cloud sales, it's another thing that you need to learn. And that's really what the cloud practitioner is geared towards, sales reps. Do you want to be a cloud engineer? Because it's a different set of skills. I need to know where you want to go. Because when you say cloud career, it's kind of like I want to jump on an airplane. It's kind of saying, which airplane should I get on, Mike? And I say, I don't know. Do you want to go to Karachi? Do you want to go to Bombay? Do you want to go to Abu Dhabi? Do you want to go to Sydney? Would you like to go to Hong Kong? Would you like to go to New Zealand? So I need to know where you want to go. If you give me that, I will definitely be able to help you. But it's all about knowing what you want to know. And that's really the key, because I don't know which career you want. So ideally, kind of give me an answer. Otherwise, my only option is to try and go through multiple careers, which I guess I could do. Chris, do we have a ton of people on this call waiting with questions? Let me know. And if not, I'll go through like the cloud architect, cloud engineer thing. Okay, so Faizan, since I don't know, let's talk about the cloud architect, then I'll go to the cloud engineer. The cloud architect role is really about being able to design systems to solve a customer's business problems. So this means going to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company and asking them, tell me about your business pain points, your business challenges, what your competitors are doing, things that you need to do. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to increase sales? Are you trying to improve employee productivity? Are you trying to improve collaboration, reduce error defects? Are you trying to improve your supply chain? Are you trying to build your brand? What are you trying to achieve? That, for the architect, drives everything. Now, to get that from the CEO, a few things have to happen. First, you need to have executive presence. Here's an example. Hi, I'm Mike Gibbs. I'm with Cisco, and I'm here to help you. Nobody's listening to me. Hi, I'm Michael Gibbs. How are you today? I'm here to help you. Big difference at some executive presence. Now, Faizan, the next thing is CEO, so relevancy. If you try to approach the CEO, I've got these S3 buckets and EC2 instances. You will be escorted out of the meeting with security. You will be fired, and your replacement will say thank you, which is a lot of times why customers don't want engineers to be architects. Engineers like to talk about the tech. I love engineers, and I train engineers not to talk about the tech. So then there's CXO relevancy. It also means you need the business acumen. When someone says, I want to increase sales, what does that mean? You've got to look at that balance sheet. What's going on with top line revenue? When they say we want to improve productivity, what does that that financial statement show you? Where's their money going to? Where's your opportunities to improve things? So you need that level of business acumen to be able to do that. Look and see what industry analysts are, read balance sheets, read financial statements, etc., etc., etc. So, good. Now, next, you are going to have to present to executives, engineers, and technology professionals. So you're going to have to learn how to speak 3 languages: engineer language, techie language, executive language, and regular people language. All 3, because you're going to be dealing with all 3. Now, you will be presenting constantly. You'll even need to give a presentation to get hired on the interview. So you're going to need some extreme presentation skills. After that, what's going to happen is you're going to meet with the client as an architect. And then you're going to ask the client some questions, and you're going to get something. You're going to have to go back to your company and say, I need 50 people on this team. I need 10 cloud engineers for their deep technical expertise. I need 3 DevOps engineers for their automation expertise. I need a cloud IAM architect, a cloud security architect, 3 cloud network architects, 2 additional cloud architects, and another staff. And the goal here is to do the following. Next, at that point, you got to go lead them, which means you're going to have to go back to your company, sell the executive vice presidents, the senior vice presidents that you need to borrow their multi-$100,000 per year people for 6 months, because that's what it's going to be. Then you're going to need to have these people. So then there's that. And they're also going to be helping you with the proof of concept testing, which the customer is most likely going to want. You will need to know how to respond to RFIs, requests for information, RFPs, requests for proposals, RFQs, requests for quotes. Now, that's the business side. Now, remember, cloud architects don't touch the technology. They design, present, and sell. So next, now that you know this, you have to design it with the help of others. So what do you need to know to design it? You need to understand this from networking. And all this is covered in a cloud architecture development program, or you can read the 25,000 pages or so that are necessary to get there. I don't care. I just want you to know how to get hired. So here, next thing I understood is the following. First, you need to understand the network and then the data center. Let's start with the networking, which means BGP. It means, which is the main exterior gateway protocol we use. Some concept of interior gateway protocols with minimum OSPF. Extreme knowledge on IP addressing, subnetting and supernetting, and traffic optimization, because you have to understand how to architect your traffic in the direction it's going to move. That's related to your addressing scheme. That's not just how to subnet. Then you need to determine what kind of wide area network technology you're using. And you need to understand all of them. IPsec tunnels, SSL-based tunnels, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. Now, you're also going to need to know switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc. Link aggregation protocols such as port channel, ether tunnel, link aggregation groups. You're really going to need to know a deep dive on NAT, and NAT is not like they just talk about in their NAT gateway on a certification exam. It's one-to-one NAT, it's one-to-many NAT, it's static NAT, it's dynamic NAT, it's PAT, and you really need to master it for different use cases. One business buys another business, for example. That's that. On the networking side, you need to have some real knowledge of DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, etc. Next, after that, you need to understand servers and server virtualization. If you're on a course, you get it. If not, you can go to the VMware website, you can go to the KVM, QEMU, and the Citrix M website, read about 1,000 pages, and you'll understand virtualization. Again, just understanding virtualization might be 4 times the depth of the certified solution architect professional, because that's what it takes to be an architect. Then I'll need you to do the same thing for containers and container orchestration. You can get that from you can get that from OpenStack. OpenShift, which is Red Hat, which is great. They've got great documentation on it. VMware, Docker, and Kubernetes, they all have great documentation on container orchestration. Then you need an understanding of block storage, object storage, file storage. Here's the thing, what's covered in certification isn't close to enough, but good news, you go to the internet for about 1,000 pages, you can go to IBM, Dell EMC, etc., and really understand your storage architecture. Now, after that, You need to learn about databases, what kind of databases to use, how to scale them, relational databases, NoSQL databases, and you need to understand how they work. Not the ones covered in your certification exam for this reason. They're proprietary in many cases. And I can't use, Google Cloud Bigtable and DynamoDB and Microsoft Cosmos all at the same time. I have to use something like MongoDB or Apache Cassandra across all three clouds. So realize 2/3 of what's taught in the certification you can't use because it's proprietary, and most people are going multi-cloud. So then next, after we've got this, you need to understand load balancers. Again, what's covered in certification is nothing, but you can go to F5, read a couple hundred pages, and really learn about load balancer architecture for the architect. After that, understanding of next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, and VPN concentrators. That's what it's going to take to be good as a cloud. And then you need to take design skills, learn how to put it together. That's why we created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, that's what you need to be a cloud architect. Now, to be a cloud engineer, it's a totally different set of skills. The cloud engineer still needs to know those network and data center skills that I just talked about. But the cloud engineer is a doer, where the other one is a builder, a designer. The cloud architect is the doer. It's the construction crew. So while cloud architects never touch the technology ever, here's what happens. The cloud engineers do. So the cloud engineers need really hardcore Linux skills because they're going to be working with it every day. The cloud engineers need to code, Python at minimum, as well as some bash shell scripting in Linux. The cloud engineers will need to know some infrastructure as code because they're going to be automating everything. You're not going to be clicking things. And the cloud engineers need to be figuring out how to build everything on multiple clouds. As you can see, it's easier to get a cloud architect job than a cloud engineer job. And it's higher pay for the cloud architect than the cloud engineer. And I can usually do it in less time. But in either case, I can get you to either job based upon what's going to make you happy. So cloud architect, design, present, and sell. Cloud engineer, deep technology professional. Big difference. Both critical, both important. I love engineers. They build everything that I design, and they help me design it too because they're deep technical depth. And here's why. As an architect, I have to focus on digital transformation. An engineer has to focus on the tech. So our focuses are different because it has to be. And it takes both to really create an optimal solution to solve customer problems. Chris, you can go to the next one. Alex Newman, cloud engineer. Okay, here's the good news, Alex Newman. How do you get that initial experience to get hired? So Alex Newman, do you know networking and data center technologies? Above all. Now, do you know how to write a Python script? Do you competently? Do you know Terraform competently? Do you know how to write a bash shell script competently? Can you configure things on the cloud competently? Is your Linux skills so good that you know where things are, how to build an OpenStack cloud, etc., etc., etc.? Where are these things? So those are the kind of things that you need to get hands-on and do. Now, for my cloud engineers, I put them in the Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. And, they build their own clouds from scratch under a job title, Go Cloud Careers. They set up server virtualization and containers and container orchestration. They do it all. They build firewalls, VPN concentrators. They build Active Directory servers. They configure things in the cloud. And they've got a laundry list of things that they've done with me. But, if you're not with us, you can always put a research and development section in your resume and literally list all these things that you've done. But here's the thing, Alex. Well, the whole world is focused on just a silly little lab. Let me do a WordPress website or pull something from Git from a certification. That's meaningless. It really is. It's helpful, but no, you're not going to impress anybody with that. But and understand what impresses employers. Employers want someone that is technically competent, someone that they can trust. Someone that knows what they know and knows what they don't know. Someone that is energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. Seriously, think about this. You get two people interviewing. This person's doing this, click, 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 and when they're done that, wake me up. And what's the work-life balance here? No, employers don't hire that. Those people complain that they can't get hired, and it's everybody else's fault. Employers want energy, enthusiasm, and passion. Next, employers want to know you're willing to go above and beyond and you're a team player. So, Alex, if you're in my program, you'll be doing labs that'll get you hired under a job title, Go Cloud Careers. But if you're not on my program, I suggest you buy a server. The server will cost you about $2,000. It needs to be a server, not a PC. It needs to be a Xeon-based system or an AMD EPYC-based system with a minimum of 16 cores. Minimum. A minimum of 128 gigs of RAM. And a minimum of 3 SSD drives and RAID 0. You can't even imagine how many of them we have around here in our systems because our students use them. Now, our course is $700 with the coupon code potential. This server is about $2,000, and it doesn't come with the training. But whatever you want, I just want to tell you how to get hired. On this server, set up some server virtualization. It's going to show you've got some data center experience. Set up some containers and do some container orchestration. When you're done that, set up a file server for NFS. Set up a file server for server's message block. Build the Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stack, because that's pretty common. Make sure you have a firewall and VPN concentrator that you build and play with in there. Set up an Active Directory server. And when I'm done, build a cloud. I'm not joking. Build a cloud. Our students do. Now think about this. Here you got other people. I did a certification. I did a Git project. I built the cloud. I mean, who are you hiring? Who's more energetic, enthusiastic, passionate, competent? Build yourself a cloud. I mean, seriously do it. All my students do. And, you can do it in our course, or you can do it on your own with your own server. Build yourself a cloud. It's going to help you get a lot of cloud engineer and architect experience. Actually, you know what, Chris, I'll go over the things again. Right now, we're currently offering 30% off of everything that we do. It's not going to last much longer at all. It's going to expire very soon. But temporarily, 30% off of all our programs, and our programs will do everything we can to get you hired. All right, next Thursday, we have the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. We'll tell you exactly the things that you need to know to get hired. We will tell you how to leverage your life experience in order to show the hiring manager you're competent. We will tell you how to what the hiring manager exactly wants. You know exactly how to wow them on the resume, on your interview. We will tell you what needs to be on your resume and what doesn't need to be on your resume. We will tell you how to bypass HR and get your resume directly in the hands of the hiring manager. We'll tell you how to get hired. It's completely free. So join us on this. I think, Chris, if you guys all want to give me a hashtag of the career you want, cloud architect, cloud engineer, and a cloud hired. In the chat box, I know you're awake, alert, and oriented. While you're at it, if you haven't given us a like or subscribe, please do so. Rick says, hi, Mike, is your cloud architect program tailored for cloud architect or cloud solutions architect? I remember you saying there are different skills and interchangeable. Okay, so here's the difference. A cloud architect is someone that can design a cloud across multiple organizations and truly solve customer problems. So in today's world, there's no place for solutions architects except for one spot, and otherwise that career is dead, and I'll explain to you. So a cloud architect goes to work at a consulting firm, they work at a bank, they work at managed service providers. And here's the thing, I'm the cloud architect, and I meet with a customer and I ask them about their business goals, business pain points, business challenges. And they give me something, and I design them a solution on one or more clouds. That's a cloud architect. Now, a cloud architect can easily be a solution architect with zero training because, and many of my students work as solution architects. Half of them work as solution architects, honestly, because it's easier to get a solution architect job than a cloud architect. And all cloud architects are prepared to be solution architects, but all solution architects are not able to be cloud architects without extensive training. So we train cloud architects for the following reason. You can work anywhere as a cloud architect. Lots of our people go to AWS, lots of them go to Accenture, Deloitte, Bearing Point, Capgemini. I mean, JP Morgan Chase has a half a dozen of our students right now. Cisco has some of our students, but they're everywhere. And why? Because we train them as cloud architects. They can work anywhere. A solution architect is someone that only knows AWS or only knows Azure and works for one of these companies. So when I was at Cisco, I was a solution architect. Here, let me design your stuff on Cisco. Now, at some point at Cisco, I moved into a bigger role, which is more a cloud architect role, which is Mike, solve your customers' problems. Here, now you are an enterprise architect, which is more like the cloud architect, but more businessy. And now, Mike, bring in these electronic health record systems, bring in these lab systems, bring in these radiology PACS systems, bring in these, Internet of Things devices and build the end-to-end architecture. So a cloud architect can work on any cloud and knows how to work on multiple clouds at the same time. A solution architect only knows a single cloud. So a solution architect would need extreme training to become a cloud architect because they would really need to understand the other clouds and solutions, how things work. Whereas the cloud architect is trained from the beginning. How is a cloud built? How does the cloud work? What is a virtual machine? What is a load balancer? What is a firewall? Because when you know this, and an AWS solution architect, here's an EC2 instance, and here's how to configure it. That's solution architect. Not really get hired, but that's what they teach in solution architect. Here's a cloud architect. Okay, guess what? Mrs. Customer, you have 10,000 virtual machines in your data center and your VMware ESXi infrastructure. Would you like us to run VMware ESXi on Azure or VMware on Azure and AWS? And there's no changes to you, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer. Would you like us to put half of your eggs in the Azure basket and half of your eggs in the Google basket, which we could do in case one cloud fails, easily. Would you like us to take this big, beautiful data center that you have and turn that into an OpenStack or Nutanix cloud, and then, when you're done that, from there, where you're trying to do is, so I forget where I was actually headed there for a second. Something popped on the screen and it distracted me. But really the key is, if you understand what a virtual machine is for real in depth, does it matter if it's your VMware virtual machine, your Citrix Zen virtual machine, your Nutanix virtual machine, which a cloud architects are going to be building Nutanix systems and OpenStack systems, constantly designing them. And so, or a Google Compute Engine, it's the same technology. So a cloud and architect understands the underlying tech. And when the underlying tech they completely understand is there, then we're in a different position, because then we can work on all clouds and any cloud. That's the same reason Cisco CIEs who don't learn Cisco proprietary names at all, they learn BGP, can go work at any company in the world on any router, equipment, et cetera. So, hope I answered your question. Feel free to ask it a little deeper. SFDC, good afternoon from UK, Mike. On several occasions, you mentioned emotional intelligence. How do you suggest on improving it? Well, I spent about $50,000 on training to learn how to improve it. If you take our course, we will teach you how to do this. If not, you will need training. Now, the training will cost you between $5,000 and $50,000 for the amount of training that you really want to really improve your career. But training your emotional intelligence on average will raise your salary by about $30,000 a year or more for the rest of your life. So it's definitely worth doing it. Now, in our training, we cover it completely free, and we have some of the best emotional intelligence training in the world, and here's the reason why. I learned emotional intelligence training the first time. They called it therapeutic communication when I learned how to practice internal medicine. So I have that specialty training. Then I took the $50,000 of business professional emotional intelligence training that was out there. And then I did an MBA, which included a little bit of it. So, that's where I got mine. Now, what we use, emotional intelligence, is truly about controlling your emotions and controlling somebody else's emotions. So in addition to teaching the normal emotional intelligence thing that like a Daniel Goleman would teach, and we love his work, we actually have developed our own. We use the traditional emotional intelligence training that's taught, to executives, et cetera, because we love it. And then we added our own. If you get stressed, the prefrontal cortex part of your brain shuts down, which is your good thinking, logical reasoning, emotional intelligence center. and this nasty amygdala kicked in, which is the part of our brain that we share in common with the crocodiles and alligators. And that's the freeze, fight or flight, angry. So what happens, when we get stressed, we shut off our good brain and we start getting into the amygdala, which makes us do things which destroys relationships, etc. So we teach a lot of emotional control. Now, where do we get our emotional control? Well, cognitive behavioral therapy. I studied under David Burns. I did my clinical rotations at the University of Pennsylvania, where they basically invented it. So there's kind of that. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that we included this. Now, cognitive behavior therapy is being taught to Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, and medical patients. So I had a lot of experience learning about that. Now, I also brought in a yoga instructor, and I also brought in someone who's talk about breathing control. Now, box breathing is actually being taught to Navy SEALs and firefighters and other people on the way to complicated things. So there's that. So we teach that. I brought in someone who trained this in India, under the Joyce family, as well as under Bikram himself, who trained various forms of pranayama breathing. So I brought in some people that have trained in India and Thailand and have 20 plus years experience teaching breathing and meditation. I'll also help with that. So we teach a comprehensive emotional intelligence package on how do you control your emotions, how do you control your thinking, and how do you do that therapeutic communication. We do that. But like I said, we could teach it. You could start with a Daniel Goleman book. It's a start. But like I said, to really get good at this is going to cost you between $5,000 and $50,000. Or you could just take our course, which is $700, and we'll get you there. And I make my students do this constantly. I am a cloud architect associate certified. Can you help me upgrade to have a remote job? I live in Africa. Okay, Fritz, what I'm going to tell you, the certification is just the beginning of absolutely anything. Anything. So what kind of remote job are you trying to go for, Fritz? Tell us the job and we can give you some good guidance. We also work with a really amazing organization called Cloud Heroes Africa. It's run by my good friend Samoa Alphonse, and about 50 of my students actually help work in there to volunteer to try and make things a little better as well. So there's that. But I don't exactly know the job you want. And without knowing the job that you want, I don't know how to guide you. So please tell me what you're looking to do, and I'll do anything I can to help you get there. A few doubts before registering with GoCloud. Doing research on cloud architecture articles says I need years of experience. What if they do have this for certification? Well, Rizzo, most people get certified in my program. And if you're not concerned about doubts with us, you're concerned about doubts with you. And I'm going to tell you why. You can go to my YouTube channel and see people that never graduated high school that are now working as cloud architects. That people that and I'll give you 5 examples of people that weren't there. So, for example, and these articles are never written by our architects ever. They're not written by Larry Timpani. I can tell you how that process works as well. But I can show you right now. I've got Daniel Bosu, who is one of the finest, smartest, most intelligent young men I met, who took our program, and he's working as a cloud architect. And he didn't graduate high school, and his last job was selling shoes at Nordstrom. We have Romanik Ivan Tamba that worked at AWS. They hired him while he was in college. His last job was serving food at a restaurant. Now, again, Ivan Tamba was an amazingly smart guy, worked hard, who was passionate about the technology. He was there. Now, I could then say, for example, Coyote, another really great guy, hired by AWS as soon as he graduated as college. Another great guy. We had a Jeffrey West that went through my program, and you know what his last career was? Geospatial imaging, and he recently got hired. I have a Jennifer that just got hired, and her last role was as a mental health tech. So my students get hired constantly. Now, Rizzo, here's the key. Will you do the work, and do you believe in yourself? That's the key. Will you be able to do the work, be confident in your mind, and work hard to get the job done? That's the difference. My students that do the work get hired every day. I have had 4 students this week, or 3 or 4, already saying, Mike, I got hired, and most of them never looked at tech in their entire life. And I can give you example after example after example. When I started 20 years ago, Mike, you need to start with help desk, and then network admin, and then network engineer, and then senior engineer and architect. That's what they told me. And I went, yeah, no. I don't care what you have to say. So 6 months later, I was hired as a senior network engineer. Within 6 months, I was the lead architect of the world's largest internet service provider on the most critical team in the whole company. So there's that. The next job I had, they wanted 20 years experience on Wall Street designing systems for the biggest market maker on the NASDAQ. I had 6 months. So it's about competency. Nobody cares about your experience. It's about your competency. Now, on a job description, you're going to look for experience. And here's the reason why. They don't know whether you're good or not, so they might assume that if you've done something for a long time, you're good. But not at all. I know people in tech for 20 years that are worse 20 years later than they started. I know doctors that have gotten out of medical school with 0 experience that are so good, saving lives every day. And I know doctors with 50 years experience that have been killing people from day one, that, I used to see their patients in the hospital with every medical mistake they made because they were bad at it. Experience is meaningless. Competency means something. Now, which is better to you? I got a security architect over here, PhD in cybersecurity, CEH Masters, CISM, CISSP, CCSP, and a PhD with 25 years experience. Or a little 12-year-old little girl with these cute little pigtails hugging her cat who just hacked into the organization bit and beat that lead architect. I hired the 12-year-old little girl. She's cuter with the pigtails, and she's better. She's more competent. And what she can do at 12, what she's going to do there. And Rizzo, in my first interview, this gentleman named Devendra interviewed me, and I remember it like it was yesterday. He interviewed me, and he said, Mike, the only problem I have with you is the following. You applied to be a network engineer, and you're not a network engineer. I said, huh? He said, you're a senior network engineer. I was like, huh? He said, you just told me you have 0 experience, and you're better than 2/3 of my staff. So I have to make you a senior network engineer, not a regular engineer, even though I had a regular engineering job, because you're too good. 6 months later, I was leading the team. So that's the key. Don't doubt yourself. You can do anything you want, but you got to be willing to fight, because it's not easy. You got to be willing to fight to win, play to win. And then nobody became an Olympian by taking naps all day long. They became an Olympian by doing the work. So if you want to get there and you want to do the work, you should be hired like the rest of our students in the end. But you have to do the work. And I don't know if you have the confidence in you. Because if you don't believe in you and you go on an interview, they don't believe in you either. You have to believe in you, that you can do it, that you're strong enough, that you're smart enough, that you're tough enough. And I'm pretty sure you are. Because I know the people that can do this program and get through. Anybody that wants it bad enough can do it. Anyone. Oh, Delaware Batts, another one. 0 experience. We just got a cloud security architect, associate degree, and he's 24 years old. I mean, we do it every day. And you can see video after video on our YouTube channel. So believe in yourself, and we can get you there if you want. But you got to believe in you. I can't make you believe in you, and I want you to believe in you before you take our course or any course. Here's why. If you don't believe in you, there's not a point in doing anything. Until you know you can do it, until you're willing to do it, that's when the magic happens. And you can have the magic for yourself too. Just do the work. After getting my SAA, should I get the SAP next? And should I get the equivalent search for Azure to be more well-rounded? Not if you want a job. I want you to be very clear. At least if you want to be an architect, nobody wants a person with 10 certifications. I removed most of the certifications from my resume because they cost me several $100,000 a year to have it there. And here's the thing. You can easily be over time a $300,000 to $500,000 plus cloud architect, enterprise architect, but they're looking for an executive, a leader, and a digital transformation specialist. Once you start getting 5 and 6 certifications across vendors, your focus looks like it's getting certified, which takes you out of those $300,000 to $500,000 jobs and puts you into that $100,000 to $150,000 job. So it's the worst thing you should do. Learn the cloud. I'm going to say it again. Learn the cloud. I'm going to say it again. Learn the cloud. So would you get a certification to drive a Toyota, and then another certification to drive a Honda, and then another certification to drive a Mercedes, and then another certification to drive a BMW. No, that'd be insanity. Learn to drive. So that's really what we're talking about. Learning to drive, learning the cloud. Get one certification on the cloud, just one. The SAP, meaning the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, or the Azure Solutions Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. Get rid of the associate once you've got the professional, because you just want to show the big ones, and then get another certification. What is the cloud? It's a network and a data center. What is it again? It's a network and a data center. What is it? It's a network and a data center. So then get yourself one certification in either networking or data center technologies, such as the CCNP from the network, or a VMware certified professional somewhere along the line from the data center. But one network or data center and one cloud. Know the cloud, but and if you really know the cloud, for example, if you tried to call this an elastic rotational vector directional changer, and somebody had a cloud-based minute of angle changer, and somebody had a cloud-based milliradian changer, and an angular thing, you never know what the heck is going on, but you got a steering wheel and you know what to do. So learn the cloud, learn the cloud, learn the cloud the way we teach it. Know what all the underlying technology is, and then you know what it is on any cloud. And here's the thing. If you try to use these silly vendor terms with your customers, they'll literally escort you out of the building and you replace it with thank you for the nice job. So, for example, I like to go to medicine, but I'm going to talk about why we need a common language. And actually, everybody needs to read that article that's asking these questions today on Hacker Noon that I wrote. So please provide the link to that post in the chat box. I want you to understand this. In medicine, which I studied before tech, if I tell a doctor anywhere in the world I've got a patient with a macular papular rash that's half a centimeter wide, okay, Michael, here's what it most likely is. It could be this, 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 or this. Now, drug companies make drugs, right? And then they pay millions, if not billions of dollars to people to give them fancy names and they think they'll sell better. Lipitor is my favorite example. The real drug is atorvastatin. Atorvastatin. And, Pfizer called it Lipitor because it sounds really cool. Now, once it went off packet, I'm sure there's Lipid Light, Lipid Happy, Lipid Joe, Lipid Jane, Lipid My Lipids. There's going to be a million and one silly, crazy names for this from all the people that are now making the drug. So you know what doctors call it? Atorvastatin. Pfizer makes a name, they spend millions of dollars. We don't use those names anyway because it causes confusion. So learn the cloud, get one cloud cert, one professional cert, and one network and data center cert, and you should be good to go on the certification. Now, that doesn't mean you've learned the cloud, and because certifications don't cover the cloud, but learn the cloud, and then just pass one of these silly certifications. I'm getting people hired that don't have certifications at all on occasion. Now, I don't recommend that. I recommend you get a professional certification and a data cert or networking certification. But I've seen students like Delroy Back get hired, no experience, 24 years old, associate degree, and no cloud cert. But he's still got a cloud security architecture because he has the knowledge, the energy, the enthusiasm, the communication skills, the leadership skills, executive presence, etc., etc., etc. Praveen, being international students in the U.S., are cloud firms ready to sponsor visas? Yeah, lots of H-1B visas sponsored for cloud computing people. Lots of visas scheduled for everything. Now, if the U.S. is an economy, will they be scheduling as many visas? Yes and no. There'll still be visas because there's such a critical shortage of people that actually understand the cloud. There's lots and lots and lots of visas that are out there. I would say approximately 20% of the people that I work with are actually there on visas. I can also tell you that I've got some people that I'm working with that every time I get that are here on H-1B visas that are constantly, every time I want to get them a job, it's like getting the visa sponsored. In some cases, it's easy to do. In other cases, it's not. But the point is yes, there are visas. We've got lots of people from India and Africa living in Canada and the U.S. on visas and doing quite well. One of my students was on a visa. He was working for one company and he got hired by JP Morgan Chase on a visa. He's doing fantastic. His name is also Praveen, but not yours is provided. His name is Praveen, and he's an amazing architect. He was a big data architect, and we turned him into a cloud architect, and he's having some really incredible experience. Hey, Mike, I know you offer salary negotiations. Do you also teach how to negotiate or work from home or hybrid? Hakeem, you're not going to be able to negotiate that. If I haven't seen any position that wasn't a hybrid position in the last 20 years for architects anyway. I mean, architects generally don't go to the office. Now, here's the reason why. There's no point in us going to the office. We go to the customer site, we design, present, and sell. Now, at some point, though, we do need to go to the office to build a team of 50 people. And yes, I can negotiate a little bit on there, but Hakeem, here's the reality. You will have to go meet with customers. Have to. Here, I'm going to go meet with a company and talk about their $500 million architecture. You think I can do that on Zoom? I can't. I got to be there. How much do we have to be there? Well, in 1 year, as an architect, I spent $100,000 on lunches on the company's corporate American Express, which they paid for, and almost $100,000 on dinners and drinks entertaining clients. So that wasn't all local in my city. One day I'd be in Brisbane, another day I'd be in Melbourne, another day I'd be in London, another day I'd be in Reading, UK, another day I'd be in Barcelona, another day I'd be in Belgium or Brussels, and another day I'd be in Panama City. But Panama. So yeah, we can teach you how to do that, but understand a lot of these positions are going to require you to travel, and there's no getting around that. Why is it easy to do mostly remote in these positions? Because it's travel. Work from home, travel, go to the office, then work from home. So I've been working as an architect remotely for over 20 years now. It was around 2001 I started working remotely, because it doesn't matter which airport I go to meet a client. But the negotiation tactics we teach will work on any of these things, but I think you're going to have limited flexibility on this. These aren't really go to the office jobs, but when you have to go to the office, you have to go to the office. Wayne, can you give me an example of what one should put down in an executive summary when he does not have much working experience? Yeah. What have you done previously in your life? What was the last things that you did? Tell me what you did. Were you the captain of the football team? Were you the captain of the music thing? Captain of the debate team? Did you play competitive sports, which competitive athletes are great? What have you done in your life? What have you done in your previous jobs? Did you work in customer service, which can carry over greatly? Did you work in sales, which can carry over greatly? What have you done? Tell me this, and I can tell you what you can put on there. It's a great question, but I need a little background information because I want to show you how to get there. But where we really will do this, if you join our LinkedIn and resume workshop, we will work with you. And it's very inexpensive. And in this LinkedIn and resume workshop, we'll be giving examples of psychologists and what they've done, examples of medical professionals and what they've done, examples of construction workers and what they've done, customer service reps. And really, that's a place for us to do this kind of thing, is not resume and LinkedIn workshop, because it's going to be hard to know exactly what you've actually done in terms of how to position you. But that's the kind of thing that we would do. And that's why we do these things. And that resume workshop's coming up, and it's really cheap. We made something pretty special, very inexpensive. And that way the world will come seek you out. Gee, good morning. I was wondering if the system design that software engineers do in their interviews is similar to the software engineering that cloud architects do work. Not even close. It's like a banana and a cat. I mean, in terms of how similar they are. Software engineers design software. Cloud architects design the end-to-end business solution. So, software engineers are talking interviews about tech. How do you code this? How do you do this? What we're doing is, okay, how do you design this? I mean, how do you load share across two equal cost direct connections without getting out over packets? How do you secure an architect how do you secure an enterprise from the outside in? How do you design your DMC? These are architect questions. Engineering software questions are, how do you make this? How do you code this? Etc. So completely. Remember, an architect designs, presents, and sells. and an engineer codes and codes or configures. So this is really the same thing. When do you guys take out the bots that are putting in unlisted information in our chat box, please? One of my nice blue ranches. And at the same time, what we're really talking about is, one's designing an end-to-end solution to improve a business, and one's designing the look and feel of software. So, gee, they aren't even related in any way, shape, or form. And that's really the thing. When we're dealing with software engineers coming into cloud architecture, the biggest challenge is the cloud architectures have almost no software in it. It's how do you design your network? How do you design your load balancers? How do you design your virtual machine strategy? How do you design your security strategy, my identity and access management strategy? So what engineers do in their interviews and jobs is so different. So different. Architect, design, present, and sell. Engineers build or configure or code. Exactly different interview. And what happens, G, is people go on architect interviews, and what they do is as follows. They give engineering answers. And what will happen is then the manager they'll hate it, and they'll use the euphemism, come back when you have more experience. Now, the person could have 25 years experience, and they're going to get told the same thing, come back when you have more experience or no experience. Come back when you have no experience means we didn't like something. Because here's the reality. I have no time. I'm a busy executive. Hiring managers are busy people. I mean, busy people. They have no time whatsoever. If I interview 3 people, it means I'm coming home to my family 2 hours later than I normally would be. So instead of leaving at 6 o'clock, I'm leaving at 8 o'clock. So when I interview someone, I'm willing to hire them, or I wouldn't waste my time on them. So when we bring in someone with no experience or 20 years experience, we're willing to hire them. And it's up to that person to either get hired or do a bad job and not get hired. But that's really the key. So no, completely opposite G. But good question. Just chill. I have gap years. Is that going to be a problem? Just chill. I've got people. I've had, I think her name was Rhea. There was another one that just recently got hired. We've got lots of people that have had gap years. I've had people that have had gap decades in order to take care and raise a family, and they've still been fine. I've had people that were injured. Just chill. I had to take off about 6 years. I mean, I still coach people on how to get hired, but I had to get out of my field or maybe even longer than that, because I had, I was involved in a bad injury that left me unable to walk, and I had to take 6 to 8 hours of physical therapy for about 8 years to be able to walk again. Now, I still help people get jobs because that's exactly what I loved. I loved it. And, I was thinking about taking a job for other people. I received an offer to be a distinguished architect at a really good company, as well as senior leadership at another great cloud company, and I decided to start my own business instead. But it's not going to be a problem if you are great. Now you're going to have to reason why you took the gap year, and that's totally okay. But you need that reason. Alex Newman, with the goal of cloud engineer and 18 years tech under your belt, how can I get the initial? We actually we covered this one, Chris. Dylan Williams, do you think these proprietary solutions will start disappearing since everybody is moving to multi-cloud? Well, Dylan, I've got a lot of experience with proprietary. So when I began my career, Cisco was the main game in town, kind of like AWS is, although Azure's catching up very quickly. And Cisco had all these really great, super enhanced proprietary solutions. ISL trunking, Ether channel, EIGRP, IGRP, and I can go on. And what was different about them versus the cloud proprietary solutions is these were enhancements to the industrial grade things, where the cloud proprietary solutions are kind of like a cookie cutter, good enough, but not great for the average business. So Cisco had better systems that were proprietary than the standards-based things, HSRP, unbelievable stuff. But what happened is as networking grew and more vendors got out there, and businesses knew that sometimes it would be really great to have some core super high-powered Juniper routers at the core, and some Cisco routers at the distribution layer, maybe some Cisco routers at the edge, and maybe there was a really great checkpoint firewall at the time. The technology has changed. It became impossible for business to be successful in proprietary solutions. And about 20 years ago, this is when the open source kind of thing started to happen. And look what happened. We had proprietary Windows, which I love for what it does, and now Linux. Now, Dylan Williams, 90% of all servers are on Linux now. Or the biggest servers, all the supercomputers are all on Linux. So we went from proprietary Windows, which still uses a desktop, to Linux and the servers. Then there was this routing protocol, EIGRP, that was proprietary. Around 2005, I wrote an article on how to get off of EIGRP and onto OSPF, something more natural. So as you can see in networking, all those proprietary solutions went away. Now, Dylan, I'm going to tell you this. The cloud is basically the same thing that we've designed 20 years ago, a little still behind the traditional network and data center. And the cloud, everything we've done in the network and data center is falling into the cloud little by little. For example, there was a couple of big press releases from AWS. There was a press release about a month ago. Oh my God, exciting things. You can now run IPsec over direct connection. Guess what? We did that in 1998 at Cisco. Last year, there was, oh my God, we can do east-west routing. Guess what? Cisco did that in 1985. A couple of weeks ago, there was a new exciting press release on AWS. Hey, we can now give you some flow log information through Transit Gateway. And it's like, okay, Cisco did that in 2000 with NetFlow. So what you've seen is all these proprietary things are going away. So here's where I still think you'll see some proprietary things. All big businesses aren't going to use them. They're going to move to standard things. And next on the list is little mini businesses may use some of the proprietary solutions. And here's the reason why. It's easy to set up an Amazon Aurora system. And you get sort of close to Oracle function, not close, but not exactly, at a much lower cost. And it's much less to manage. So if you're a mom and pop supermarket, that Amazon Aurora is looking awfully good. Whereas if you're an enterprise, you're going to be using an Oracle database across multiple clouds anyway. You need a NoSQL database. It's probably going to be MongoDB across multiple clouds. So I see most of the proprietary solutions disappearing, because the main customers don't want to use them anyway. And the cloud providers will make more and more and more. And then one day they'll do what Cisco did and Juniper did and all the other big players. They'll embrace open standards. Why do you think the Linux is the number one operating system in the cloud now? Open. And it's not Amazon Linux. It's Ubuntu Linux, which is standard across clouds. Praveen, can you be a reliable architect without having an MBA? Praveen, I've just told you before today, I've gotten people jobs that haven't completed high school as cloud architects. I've gotten people jobs with associate degrees that haven't become cloud architects. So absolutely, if I can get somebody without a degree working as a cloud architect, without even a high school, who didn't even graduate high school, yeah, you can get a job without an MBA. 90% of my students don't have an MBA. I do, but most of my students don't, and of course you can. It is competency. Competency is not taught in school. Company is up to you taking what's taught in school or learning on your own. So for example, Praveen, when I was in my MBA program, I was in a marketing class and I had a lecture and a textbook. Do you think that I would have learned marketing there? No, but you know what I did do is I had to drive roughly 200 kilometers to school each day when I did my MBA. So I would buy audiobooks on tape. I bought 15 or 20 marketing books while I was doing my MBA program in my marketing class. So I had my marketing class plus the 20 books or so that I listened to on the way back and forth to classes. That's how I learned marketing. That's how you learn anything. You double down on yourself. You fight to be better. And you look, oh my God, I don't know this. How can I learn it? That's what you do. Be the best. Eugene Diaz, if you build your own private OpenStack cloud, will that give you the fundamental knowledge of the cloud for a solution architect? Not even close. Building is configuring. It'll help you understand the knowledge. Designing is designing. We do the build your own cloud because it'll teach you what it is. Gives you a little better feel in your mind for the things that you need to know conceptually. It'll show you where your storage is, for example. It'll show you for the security systems. You'll learn the control planes of the cloud, and then you'll know why a single cloud provider will never work. But no, it's not going to teach you how to design. To learn design, you're going to have to learn the network and data center things, which is going to be heavy, which means BGP. It means an interior gateway protocol, at least like OSPF. It means IP addressing, subnetting, or supernetting, route aggregation, etc. It involves knowing when to use an SSL-based VPN, an IPsec VPN, a private line, Ethernet over PLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. When and why are you using it? It involves knowing switching and VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking and spanning tree and rapid spanning tree. It understands knowing how to set up NAT and for the right reasons. When to use static NAT? When to use dynamic NAT? When to use port overload translation or PAT? What do you deal with companies that are overlapping? It involves knowledge of ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP and how to optimize that. It involves knowing servers and server virtualizations and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file storage, databases and how to scale them, how to tune them, which ones to use. It involves knowledge of firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, etc., etc. That's just the tech. And if you knew all that, you still can't get a cloud architect job without the business side. The business side includes sales, because you're going to be selling constantly. It involves negotiation skills. It involves being able to build a team that wants to work for you through your ability to influence others, of 50 people to work with you on an architecture. It involves presenting at executive briefings, which means you need executive relevancy and executive presence. It demands high levels of emotional skills, high levels of social skills, and extraordinary presentation skills. Those are there. Like I said, the $2,000 server will give you something that's going to make you stand out on your resume and teach you something that will make you more competent. But it's not going to cover the architect training. You still need that architect training. We use that to make our people stand out. And I strongly recommend it. But if you're not with us, make sure you get that networking and data center training. And, we're $700 for everything because I don't need to work. And we run this program close to our cost. But it's going to cost you $40,000 to $50,000 in the end to learn this. That's what our program's worth. They just don't charge it. We charge $700 on sale. It'll be $800 in about a couple of days. But we charge $700 just specifically to do the following. I want you to get all you need is basically free. I mean, why do I say it's free? Our average graduate earns about $700 a day. Somewhere in there, the $500 to $800 a day. We charge $700. It's a single day's pay to get you to your goals. Because I don't need to work. I just want to get you cloud hired. So if you want to get cloud hired, take advantage of coupon code potential for as long as it lasts. It's 30% off. So your cloud architect program makes one versatile enough to work on all providers. Yes, have to. There's no employment unless you know how to work on all cloud providers. And after that, you get one certification. You can do more, but I'm telling you this, if you do more certifications, it's going to drop your salary. So it's up to you. Do you want to focus on being certified, or do you want to be focused on improving your salary, earning more? You just need one of them. So I'd like to see you get an Azure cert or AWS cert and a network and a data center cert, something that really shows that you're well-rounded as an architect, not just certifications in cloud. You can do it if you want. We're not going to stop you. You get hired either way by doing our program. You'll probably get hired long before you even finish the certification if you're really learning the equipment. There's a great question there that just popped in from Cody, so we should get to that and then continue. I don't want to then get to some of them. Cody, does a cloud architect required to know how to implement the solution? Absolutely not. We architects do not touch the technology. We do not touch the technology. That is somebody else's job, the cloud engineer's job. So no, we design it. And I'll give you the examples as, about 25 years ago, I became an architect. And since then, I've worked for 5 companies. So here's the thing. I stopped touching the tech when I left engineering to become an architecture. We do not touch the tech. And Cody, that's the main problem is why people are can't become architects, is they're taking cloud admin courses. Here's the name of a service, and here's how to configure it. Here's how you set up your EC2 instance. Here's how you set up your AS3 bucket. And then you go talk to then you have the interview architect, how would you design this? And they go, huh? What do you mean design it? No, we can't do it. And here's the reason why. I want you to think about flying an airplane that's got 500 people in the back. You're trying to fly the plane, and all of a sudden, you decide to walk in the back of the room and start handing out drinks and putting oxygen masks on people. What do you think is happening? The plane's going to crash. Now, the architect and the engineer have an extremely different focus. The architect's knowledge and focus is on, how do I improve this business? How do I transform this business? How do I make this business make more money? How do I cut costs out of the business? How do I improve productivity and employees so they can do more with less? That's what the architect's focused on. The engineer's focused on how to build. It's a mindset difference. So no, a real architect will never touch the technology. It's an executive job. Executive. Now, Cody, I'm going to give you another example. Tonight, I want you to do this. I want you to go out when it's dark outside, lay down on the ground if it's safe or wherever that, and look at the sky. Look at the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the stars, the moon. I like to look at the sky. I think it's beautiful. Look at the sky. As an architect, you need to be focused on that big picture, just like the sky. Now then, take a telescope or binoculars and zoom into the moon, like as big as you can. What are you going to see? Part of the moon, but what won't you see? The sky. Where do architects get fired? Where do architects destroy their career? And I almost made this mistake when I was younger. We try to zoom in and fix things. And the second you zoom in, you lose everything. So Cody, when I was a young bear, I was told by a manager, you're not an architect. And I was working on this really cool BGP architecture. It was so awesome. So awesome. And there was a little BGP outage. And I was like, I got it. My manager says, don't do it. Focus on the big thing. I'm like, I can do it. I'm good enough. I can fix the BGP issue and worry about design. So here I did. I stopped looking at the design. I started fixing the problem. When I got back to the design, I missed something really serious and I almost got fired. My manager then said, well, here's your one pass. He said, every engineer that becomes an architect tries to do what you just did. And he said, I told you not to because I knew you were going to fail. Everybody else tries to fail, but everybody else does it. So never touch the technology again. And I didn't. I never had that problem. That's why we can't. And Christian goes the next one. Okay. Abhishek, I've scored 700. I am confused right now. I'm solving paper questions to pass the exam. That's what everybody does. They memorize or mug up questions and answers. You've not learned that much. Nobody does. What is the duration of our program? The duration of our program is pretty much whatever it takes to get you hired. And what I mean by that is, I've seen people do it in 16 weeks. I've seen people do it in 8 months, 10 months, or 12 months. We let you stay in the program for up to the year. How long does it take you to get hired? It depends upon you. How hard are you willing to work? Do you show up in class? When you go to classes, do you turn your camera on? When I ask you questions, do you interact and respond to them? Those people get through much, much, much faster. Are you willing to listen to us? If you follow our plan and stick to our plan, you should be hired. But sometimes I have students that don't follow our plan and they say, Mike, I'm looking at taking this course and this course and this course. What should I do? And I say, follow the plan, follow the plan, follow the plan. Don't divert your attention to other things that don't matter. So what's the duration of our program? Anywhere between 4 and 12 months. Why do I say this? Because maybe something happened in your life and you need to take a break. Maybe, for example, the presentation skills take you a little longer and you're going to have to deliver a presentation on the interview to get hired. So that's really the key, is this. It is how do we get through it? But yeah, I'd say 4 months to 12 months, and you should be doing great. Look, what people's scores are on these exams is meaningless. It's totally meaningless. And here's the thing. If you have the job that is design, presenting, and selling, and you got a certification that's related to, hey, how do I configure? Design, present, and sold. The job. Configure. Design, present, and sold. Configure. Of course you're lost. It's because it's like I'm teaching you French and then sending you to a meeting in English, saying, here, speak English. And you're like, but Mike, I only speak French. And I'd be, yep, that's the problem. Totally different. Certifications are so wackily off the top of what we do. It's to the point of it's like, I still want you to get one or two just to have it on your resume, but that's why nobody hires architects based on certifications ever. But we could teach you what you need to learn, and we could get you hired and really change your life. And that's what most of my students say in the end when Chris interviews some of them. He doesn't interview all of them, but he interviews some of them. They say, this company changed my life, and we'd love to change yours too. And I'm not sure if you actually passed it or didn't pass it, because a lot of scores at 700 are passing and others are not based on them. D, can I please do an enterprise architect class? D, I get enterprise architects hired all the time. They take our cloud architect career development program. We teach enterprise architecture as well as cloud architecture in there at the same time. We had a Protopal say John who graduated, and you can see his video on our website. He's working as an enterprise architect. I had a student just yesterday got hired as an enterprise architect. I have a student in Australia, Slijit, that just got hired as an enterprise architect, because in our cloud architect career development program, we're teaching architecture. Now, there's two ways you can teach your architects. You could teach the low salary architect skills, which are as following: the being a real techie, or you can teach the high value, high paying architect skills, the sales skills, the executive presence, the executive leadership, the emotional intelligence, the business acumen, the ROI modeling, etc. We teach all of that. So all of our architects are really being trained as cloud architect / cloud enterprise architect at the same time for this reason. That's why my students also get jobs that are typically much higher. We've got students that get $275,000 plus positions, and we've got students that get, that $100,000 to $150,000 position. 90% of our students earn over $100,000 a year, and the majority of them earn between $150,000 and $275,000, because we bias our students towards enterprise architecture in our cloud architect career development program. So there's 3 students recently that got hired as enterprise architects from taking our cloud architect career development program, because we bias our training to be enterprise architects, because we're looking for this. I don't want my people just getting hired into my program. I want them hired and shooting through the roof. If they want to be the CTO, great. Enterprise architect, great. But generally speaking, most of my people do some kind of architecture course before becoming an enterprise architect, but not necessarily. Occasionally we get lucky and somebody does, but usually they have to become a cloud architect or a solution architect for a year or two first. But we get people that have experienced enterprise architect jobs through this background, through this program as well. Chris, we answered this question already. If you've got some questions, ask them in the chat box. And if you haven't, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. What about DevOps engineer? I don't know what you mean. What about them? Is it a good thing to do? Is it a demand? Is the pay good? What about DevOps engineer? Please communicate to me what you actually would like, and then I can give you an answer. But I don't know I have no idea what you're thinking or asking right now. Since cloud architects design, present, and sell, please speak about the extensive sales training. I'm not completely sure I understand your question, but almost in every class, I have my students design an architecture together. And then you're forced to present it back to me and try to sell it to me to convince me I need it. And my students will have to sell it like they would normally sell things. They will talk about, first they interview the executive, and then they make sure they understand the executive business, because that's part of the design. Then the students will actually design the solution. And then after the students design the solution, they'll present it back. And then they'll try and sell it to me as well. And they will use metrics. Upon calculation of your sales, we feel this new thing will be able to increase your sales by X, Y, Z percent, and show it to me. So we do that constantly. I also have my students do tremendous number of presentations through the program that are persuasive presentations and sales presentations, and architectures that my students do as well. And they're constantly learning to sell. They're constantly selling other people to work on projects with them. They're constantly doing it. So what we do is everything that's critical, we embed into every other project intentionally. And I do it intentionally for lots of reasons. People try to copy what we do and they don't know what we do, so they can't be successful. So if you've ever seen the movie Karate Kid, where they had the Mr. Miyagi teaching this kid, wax on, wax off, so they could learn the blocks or makis, we put the things hidden into our program where people are learning how to do certain things and they don't even realize they're doing it. The first video in our program is to tell me about yourself. First one. First assignment is to tell me about yourself video. And why is that? When it comes to the interview, the first question you're asked is, tell me about yourself. And that's your chance to establish rapport, to show the hiring manager what you need. You have to sell the hiring manager into knowing that you are the things they're looking for, and here's your chance to do it. Here's the chance. So we've constant sales, constant training, constant presentation training, constant architecture training, constant content. But to know more than that, other than what I'm describing, you'd actually have to be a student in our program, because I can't give away how we do our training completely on YouTube. I've already got some guy that copies my social media posts in Australia every single day. I make one and he copies me. So, I can't give away how we do our training to anybody other than the students. James T, could I talk about continued education outside of certification, such as reading white papers? James T, I'm going to make this abundantly clear to you. Abundantly clear. And here is as following. The cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center. I've been working with cloud technology since 1996. AWS, Azure, and Google are about 5 to 10 years behind what we've been doing in the data center 15 years ago. 15 years behind. The networking is behind, the data center technology are behind, the storage speed and performance is behind, the cloud is slower. If you actually knew the network in the data center, what you'd find is there's no continuing education you might need for about 15 years, because each new thing is really something that was done before. So how do you get continuing education? Well, there's a couple of ways. I believe you should constantly read a tech journal. Now, if you're an architect, you should be reading CIO magazine, because that's what your customers read. CIO magazine. There's other good publications in which I'm in constantly, such as Information Week and Tech Republic and Tech Radar. These are good publications. Now, James T, white papers basically enable a company to sell its stuff. And that's not going to give you constant information. Now, if you want good information, you can go to the Internet Engineering Task Force and read the RFCs. You'll get good information there, the specs, and you'll really understand it. If you want good information, you can attend some conferences. Attend a Cisco conference and really get your networking things. Attend an AWS conference. Attend an Azure conference. But make sure your fundamentals are strong. Now, James T, you don't really have to worry about continuing education as an architect. And here's why. I've got a new architecture right now. Customers asking me to do something that's never been done in the world. It's normal for me. Then I got to go build my team. And in the process, I'm going to get, 10 DevOps engineers, 10 cloud engineers, cloud security architects, cloud IAM architects, cloud network architects, and I could go on and go on. Now, next, we're going to be working on stuff. And in the process, hey, we need some firewalls. Now we're going to call Cisco and talk about their security solution. We will be calling Fortinet. We'll most likely be calling Palo Alto. We may be calling Checkpoint as well. So we're going to be bringing in these people, and they're going to be telling us about all the newest things that they have. And they may have been testing the performance of it for us. So James T, when you work as an architect, you're constantly going to be working with all these vendors and their bleeding edge things. So there's really no continuing education to do, otherwise going to conferences, etc. So by working, if your fundamentals are strong, you'll be good to go. But your fundamentals have to be strong. And here's what I mean. I remember when I first learned what a VLAN is, where we chopped up the sessions into multiple virtual switches. I guess I learned this around 1995, something like that. Then around 2002, VMware ESXi came out, or I don't remember when it was, but it was somewhere in there. And I remember, wow, we just did the same thing we did to a server. And then Cisco came out with something called a private VLAN. And what a private VLAN was is inside of that VLAN, switches couldn't talk to each other. It was like a virtualized VLAN. And then a couple of years later, all of a sudden we have a container, which is in the same server. The containers can't talk to each other like a private VLAN. Same technology. Nothing has changed. You know, I learned BGP 25 years ago, and guess what? We get to the cloud and we get to hub and spoke VPC peering, and it's like, okay, the same problem that we had with the route reflector and IBGP years ago, where route reflector was the solution because IBGP was non-transitive, then guess what? We can use Cloud Hub or Transit Gateway to do the same thing. So when your fundamentals are good, you're going to see that every new invention on the cloud is an old one. Like I said, as it was with AWS, wow, for now, we now allow east-west routing. That was a year ago. That means routing between subnets. Cisco did it in 1985. So the real key is when your fundamentals are strong, you're going to see that almost every new invention is an iteration of the old invention. In an architecture team, you're going to be constantly working with people that are all going to be teaching you new things because there's that. Next, you're going to be working with other organizations and you're going to be bringing them in. So James T, what I focus on, where would I focus my time? Long-term, where am I going to do it? Conferences you can go to, your employer will pay you to be there and you can learn. So now think about it this way. Where are you going to be focusing your time? You're going to get majority of your continuing education to the means I told you. Now, do you want to focus on your business skills, executive presence, communication skills, leadership skills, the things that can add $100,000 to $200,000 to your career, or you want to focus on white papers? Choice is yours. But I'll tell you what I would do. I'd learn it the way I described to you. Stay current by the way I described to you by mailing master fundamentals that will serve you for the rest of your life, and then focus on the high value skills. Yes, let's go to the next one. Great question, James T. Alatero Sally has recently passed the AWS CCP, still hunting for a job. Any advice? Yes. What job would you like? I will tell you this. There's nothing in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional that's enough to get anybody a job on its own. But if you tell me what you'd like to do, then I can tell you the things that you can do to get there. And it's not related to certifications. James T, enrolled in your program, architecture. However, you're currently working a low-paying job. You want to jump into the cloud ASAP, but the positions are for admins or engineers. Should I take the job? I don't know. It's up to you. And what I mean by that is you want to do that job. If you take that job, will you have the focus and the time to get to the career that you would actually like to? I don't know. Now, if you are an engineer, which is totally fine, we're going to have to do a lot to redefine your brand afterwards. But, you know, if you're not working in tech, depending upon what you're doing is there. So the key is, James, what do you want to do? If you want to be an architect, study to be an architect. If you want to take a cloud engineering job and you can do it, great. But here's the thing, James T. In most cases, it's going to take you more time to learn how to be a cloud engineer, to get a cloud engineer job than it will to have you become an architect. You got to know a lot more tech stuff to be an engineer than an architect. And I think if you wanted to become a cloud engineer, now, James T, I will ask you this question. If you have these following skills, if you understand all the deep tech stuff that the architect would need to know, plus Python scripting, plus Terraform, plus Linux, plus bash shell scripting, etc., then guess what? Become a cloud engineer, do it for a year, and then become an architect. And I'd be fine with that. You can stay on my architect program for 12 months, 14 months that way if you desire. If we know that's your path, we'll give you a little extra time. And I'm fine with that. Just understand, It might take you 6 to 9 months to learn the engineering skills. And then we got to retrain you to be an architect and rethink you like an architect. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But that's up to you. Gotten GCP certified. What's next before you can apply for a cloud engineer? Okay, so I want you guys to understand that certification has nothing to do with getting hired. Certification is the name of a proprietary service and how to configure that service. Cloud engineers will be doing some of the work that's covered in certification. Maybe that covers 20% of it. But after that, a cloud engineer will need to be an expert on Linux because you're going to be dealing with Linux systems constantly, automating Linux systems. So make sure you've got strong Linux outbound skills, almost to the level of a Linux engineer. Next, you'll be automating constantly. So you will need for a cloud engineer to have some really good Python scripting skills. Next, automation in Linux, Bash shell scripting, Windows PowerShell scripting. Yep, cloud engineer skills. Next, infrastructure as code, meaning Terraform. You need to understand that and be good at it. Those are the kind of things that are going to help you have the skills to pass an interview for a cloud engineer job. But the certification has nothing to do with it. Almost nothing to do with it. But you have the certification with those things that I talked about, you're great. Because the certification may help you get an interview. But it won't get you hired. Combine the two and you should be good to go. Hey, Mike, what's the difference between a sales engineer and a solution architect? Are they not the same thing? Well, that's a really good point, Sandy. So here's what a pre-sales engineer does. Designs, presents, and sells. Here's what a cloud architect does, or a solution architect designs, presents, and sells. But here's the difference, Sandy. The sales engineers are still considered an engineer, and they're not expected to speak as well. The sales engineers, you usually don't get them in front of the executives because you're afraid of what they're going to say. So the sales engineers are more of a techie. The solution and even though the sales engineers may not touch the technology, they're still a techie at heart. A solution architect's primary role is business transformation, digital transformation. That's their main role. So the solution architect needs to be a better sales rep, have better executive presence, have better communication skills, better leadership skills, better emotional intelligence, etc., etc., etc. These are what you're kind of talking about. So kind of keep that in your mind. Architect, executive, sales engineer, not so much. I was a sales engineer many years ago, and a good one. And I was doing design and presenting in sales. And Sandy, one of my managers came over to me and he said, Mike, he said, do you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer, like it was about 20 years ago, and a $300,000 distinguished engineer or enterprise architect? I was like, tell me. And he said, it's not the tech at this point. He said, it's the executive presence. It's the CXO relevancy. It's the emotional intelligence. It's the leadership skills. It's the sales skills, etc., etc. When he told me that, I got the training and instantly I moved into the bigger role. But that's the difference. Engineers are a little more geeky. Architects are more in the suit, executive. Des, any websites that can help with architecting skills? Not really. And here's the problem. And I'll tell you what I actually was tasked to do at a major company many years ago. Most websites are busy selling boxes. Alonzo and I, from my team, to prove how ridiculously hard it is to find people that can teach you architecture, we called one of the world's greatest security companies, one of the top 4. And I wanted to get them to come in and talk about their solution to my students, because I get people coming in when I want to. And for example, an AWS hiring manager came to our class and talked one day about why he loves our students so much, because of the things that we teach outside of just the tech. And we called them and we said, I would like to know your end-to-end security architecture. And the sales engineer basically gave me a box. Here's our box. And I said, how's the architecture work? Box is really fast. And Alonzo and I said, what's the end-to-end piece? What happens when this packet comes in, when it's not recognized? Look how big the box is. This box can do this. I said, I don't care about the box. What happens where? How does the firewall work? When new code comes in, does it get spun up in a virtual machine to be tested to see if it's bad or not? or does this not occur? How does what kind of next generation firewall capacities has it? What's the intrusion detection like? What's stopping where and how? How does this fit in with your malware strategy? How does this fit in? And he said, I got a great box for you. And that's the challenge. So Des, when I was actually at Cisco many years ago, it was around 2004, Cisco decided that they were going to teach the engineers architecture, which I thought was the best idea in the world. And I was elected to one of the people to teach this architecture. The architecture at the time was something called the service-oriented network architecture. Loved it. It was explained to me, and I went, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I went, wow, how cool this was. And basically what it was talking about, how do you solve which problems through the network? What applications do what? What transforms what? I was blown away for that desk. I was blown away. And then Cisco was teaching it to all the engineers. And what they got was a deer in the headlights look from the majority of them. Then when they talked about this architecture, the business executives and the sales executives, they're like, I finally get it now. It was so great. They loved it. And I was asked to communicate to the engineers this mission. And when I first did it, I spoke to the executives and, oh, I love this, Mike. They'd hug me in the hallway because they were like, I finally get it now. And then I'd teach it to the engineers. And they looked at me like I had four heads. So then I translated the architecture into engineering terms. Okay, engineers, what we're talking about at this layer is this. Now this serves this business function, which is mitigated by these tech things. This does this. And then they were like, oh, I got it. But generally speaking, vendors teach boxes, not architecture. That's why I teach my course here. Now, there are places that do teach architecture, but you're going to deal with $30,000 and $40,000 courses minimum. And they usually don't teach the non-tech things that we do, but that's really the problem. You need to know the architecture. And there's not a lot out there. The Open Group has their TOGAF architecture. I have nothing against the TOGAF group. I think it's a nice theoretical framework. I've spent a life translating TOGAF architectures into things that customers understood because they didn't know what it meant. So there's that. But no, not a lot of architecture training out there. That's why we created our program. Matthew, if a cloud engineer decides to move into cloud architecting, will it still be okay to indicate that he has cloud engineering in his resume? Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're going to have to translate your experience. So if you write a Python script, okay, what is it? But if you wrote a Python script that saved 30 employees from doing something and you automated it and you improve business performance, that's relevant. So it's that. So it's more about translating your relevant experience, your experience into something that's relevant for the new job. But don't have something on your resume that says EBS, S3, EFS. I mean, with a bunch of acronyms listed on their skills, that will kill that. So yes, have your cloud engineering. It's good. Just show the benefits of how it's help the customer. Ravon, what is digital transformation? It's about improving a business's performance with technology. How do you make that business better, more financially secure, increased revenue, decreased expenses, improved employee productivity, decreased defects, optimize supply chains, etc. It's how do you make the business better? So you got to be an expert on business. That's why people don't get hired with no experience, because they're focused on tech. And we architects are all about transform. And that's why people assume you learn the transformation over years. But we teach the transformation. That's why our students are getting hired constantly. James T. Does an architect need an understanding of Linux? James T. Architects don't touch the technology. So we need to understand what is Linux, why is Linux used, what is the Linux kernel, maybe a little bit about the architecture of Linux, such as the shared memory spaces in the kernels and the drivers, and why organizations use Linux. But we are not hands-on tech people. So no, Linux is a cloud engineer skill, not a cloud architect skill. Delivering presentations is a cloud architect skill. Doing sales is a cloud architect skill. Leading teams is a cloud architect skill. Responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs is a cloud architect skill. Going to executive briefings, writing thought leadership documentations, those are cloud architect skills. not how to get hands-on on Linux. Good question, though. Will you do additional job support if our students get hired? Look, Cody, we offer a $50,000 program for $700. If people want job support, they can book private sessions with us. Now, we do occasionally have people that get hired that likes to stay with us for a month or 2 or 3 after the program to make sure that they've got what they're doing. And even after the program, the students still have access to our content. And even beyond that, and we also have students that get hired that once they get hired, they interact with some of their teammates, and in the process, they collaborate on them. So yeah, there's some job support there as well. Nobody's kicked out of the program, but we're not going to be doing your job for you. I mean, you can't come to us and say, hey, I need you to your 50 hours of assistance to design an architecture. But no, we've got lots of students that have gotten their first jobs. They come to class, they still stay in class for a month or 2 or 3, and we don't care. And they use the class to learn more things. James T, would I recommend both programs, career development and tech career accelerator program? Yes. And here's the difference. In the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we teach good leadership skills, good ones, and really good architecture skills. In our Tech Career Accelerator Program, James, we get into the serious leadership skills, the kind of leadership skills that help people become enterprise architects, VPs, CIOs, CTOs. That's a very strong leadership program. I'd say it's more beneficial than the MBA that I took, because I went with real big executives and we collaborated on how to make it the best thing we could. And that's an incredibly good program if you do the project on it. Patrick Frankon, you're not familiar with our program. What technical skills are taught in becoming a solution architect? Now, Patrick, you have to understand this. Architects are not hands-on people. Architects do not touch the tech. Architects design the tech, present the tech back to the customer, and sell the tech. So what do we teach? We teach what you need to know to architecture. We teach BGP. We teach OSPF. We teach IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, etc. We teach what kind of WAN technologies need to go in your design, when to use a VPN versus an IPsec tunnel versus an SSL VPN versus private line versus Ethernet over MPLS versus SASE versus software-defined networking. We teach, the different kinds of NAT that you need to use an architect, and believe me, they're 10 times more than your certification. We teach switching and VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking, because that's critical. We teach how to architect your virtual machines, we teach how to set up your container, how to design your container strategy. We teach box storage, object storage, file storage. We teach what kind of databases to use, when to use them, and not the proprietary kind. We teach enterprise security, next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS systems. These are the tech pieces that are taught. Remember, this is only a half tech job. Then after that, we teach how to design across multi-clouds, how to secure your systems properly. I mean, those kind of things are cheap. But then we also teach the non-tech skills, because you can't get hired as an architect with just tech. It's impossible. So we teach the sales, executive presence, communication skills, leadership skills, CXO relevancy skills, presentation skills, negotiation skills, sales skills, all the things that are there. And of course, we teach you how to build the perfect resume. So then recruiters, people come to you. We even teach you how to negotiate a higher salary. Everything we cover in there. It's a very extensive 500-hour course. 500 hours. That's how much training is in there approximately. Okay, I've got time for one last question. So Chris, if you can bring in one more. Hey, Mike, you're being hounded by recruiters for 80K-ish jobs. The goal is to triple that. Will the resume course teach you how to take that to the next level? The resume course will get people to reach out for you for these jobs. But here's the problem, Hakeem. If you don't have the skills, having a resume to get interviews is not going to get you hired. So, and you have to have the skills to be able to get a $250,000 job to be hired. Can we provide you those skills? Yes, we can. But the resume itself is not going to be enough. Do you have extreme emotional intelligence? Have you led large teams? Have you closed billion-dollar deals? Have you sold billion-dollar deals? How much time are you presenting to the CEOs, CFOs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Those are the kind of things that are going to get you a $250,000 job. Goals that top out around tech jobs, top out around $110,000 to $150,000 a year as a rule, maybe 180 if you're lucky. Getting above that is all about your communication skills, leadership skills, executive presence. So doing the resume is not going to be enough. You're going to actually have to have the skills. We do this resume workshop that if you had the skills, you'd be able to get bombarded by people, but you have to have the skills. If you're getting reached out for 80K jobs, either you have an 80K resume, which is most likely what you have, or you don't have that. You don't have skills above that. So I don't know what your skills are, but if you've got the skills, sure. Without the skills, it's not going to get you to the goal. Okay, so, unfortunately we must end. I've got to go to another meeting, and so does my team, but let's talk about the following. Please join us on the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. It's on Thursday, completely free. It'll be on Zoom. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will tell you everything you need to know. We will go through how to leverage your life experience, what hiring managers dream about, how to bypass HR, the kind of things that need to be on your resume, and lots more. If you want to get your first cloud architect job or your first cloud engineer job, take our cloud architect career development program. If you want to be a cloud architect, or a cloud engineer career development program, be a cloud engineer. Right now, it's off at 30% for a couple more days using coupon code potential. And follow us on LinkedIn, because I've got so many good articles and great things for you. Even just today, I wrote an article on Hacker Noon on improving your communication, which will seriously increase your salary. So hope you all had a great time today. We hope to train some of you. Some of you already signed up, and we look forward to seeing you in class today if you've already signed up. And otherwise, so good to see you. I'll be back on Monday. Cloud hired, everybody. Get cloud hired.